everybody, welcome to the channel. Michael Noland here, and tonight part 2 of my review of Pink Floyd's magnificent The Dark Side of the Moon. Now in my last video, basically what I covered was the making of this album, the band's approach, some of the band's history that led to them actually creating this album. But tonight, as promised, what I'm going to do is do a track-by-track analysis. You know, in an interview with Alan Parsons, he once said that he played the master tapes for this album prior to release to Paul McCartney. Paul McCartney listened to it intently, and he asked him, "So what do you think?" Paul's response was, "Ask for a percentage." Paul knew on first listen that this was going to be a monster. And as I stated in my last video, in my opinion, it is their very best album they ever recorded. Not that following albums weren't brilliant, mind you. And, of course, there were a couple of brilliant albums before. So before we get into the track-by-track analysis, I do want to say thank you to all of you who have shared our videos. Of course, the channel is growing at a phenomenal rate. I want to thank all of you new subscribers. And as usual, at the end of this video, you'll see names in front of me, and those will be, of course, the names of all new subscribers who have joined the channel. Now, if your name doesn't show up in tonight's video, that means that you haven't come across my desk on YouTube Studio, but I'll include you in the next video. I am keeping track. All right, track 1, Speak to Me. Primarily a Nick Mason composition and the shortest track on the album. But you know what an important piece this is. This sets up the entire album and is really part 1 of a 3-part suite that blends into the rest of the album. The spoken words in this small part, these sentiments are echoed throughout the album. Wonderful. And the first sounds we hear are that of a heartbeat, and it gets louder. And really, what is a heartbeat? That is our timepiece ticking away, right? And that heartbeat gets louder on this track, and we start hearing things intermixed with it, and we feel like we're being woken up. And really, with the words of the next track, we understand that this is an awakening here. Not only is this person pondering whether he could possibly be mad, insane, but also there's an awareness of his own timepiece ticking away, getting louder. Here we see interspersed with possibly cash registers, definitely some one-armed bandits. We are also introduced to sounds that we would hear later on in the album for a totally different suite of songs. Of course, I'm talking about Money, and we'll get to that in a moment. And all of this occurs in just a mere 1 minute and 4 seconds. Now this piece blends into the next track, Time. Here we hear what was once a heartbeat morph in to the ticking of many timepieces, don't we? And they finally blend into the tick-tock, tick-tock of a metronome. And you know, I just love this whole concept. We go from a flesh and blood heartbeat to the ticking analog timepieces, and finally to a computerized metronome. Isn't that just wonderful? You just knew, first time listening, you were into something you've never heard before. Then we hear Waters' ominous bass, don't we? A very ominous bass line. And you know, when I listen to this, I hear Richard Wright's keyboards almost representing different days or different experiences, slightly to the left and right of that ominous bass. And you know, when I first heard this bass line, I felt like it was almost like a fist against a wall. And you know, it's with the lyrics of this song that we finally realize that all of these sound effects, all of the instrumentation that we've heard up to this point is actually representing a young person, someone who perhaps is even still in their teens or very early 20s, realizing that the life that they've lived for the last 5 or 6 years as a teenager has to change. There are even lyrics bemoaning the fact that maybe it might be too late, that you missed the starting gun. But you know what? To my ears, it is David Gilmour who is the primary instrument that really stands out on this track. His guitar lines, once I knew what this album was about, they became in my head almost like nails in a coffin, with special effects to almost give his guitar a real icy kind of sound. And you know, this is one of the very best tracks on the album. And one of the reasons for that is it's written by all 4 members of the band. Now the next song, The Great Gig in the Sky, began as one of Wright's keyboard progression pieces, but they asked the magnificent Claire Torrey to sit in as a guest vocalist, and she would just vamp. What amazing vocal vamping this is. It's done so well that she gets a co-songwriting credit for this song. It's with that vamping that basically she creates the piece's melody. Now the song really had 2 original titles. They would either call it the Religion Song, or more appropriately, they called it the Mortality Sequence. You know, when I read that, I felt vindicated, because I always thought this whole album is talking about basically mortality and how much time do we put to various aspects of our lives. But you know, I also hear a real sadness here. This is someone who is in mourning, and it makes you wonder, is this someone who has passed on and is now in a heavenly position, mourning for us here on earth? I know, Michael reading into things again, but I can't help but think that that is exactly what's going on here, especially when you take into consideration the lyrics interspersed throughout this album. The album almost represents to me a mournful awakening to the fact that we only have so much time to get ourselves together, to live, and to live well. But notice Wright's keyboard toward the end, there's a warble to it, and then the song's final declaration, I never said I was afraid of dying. And it makes you wonder, is this a statement in defiance of death, or just wishful thinking? Now it's with the next track, Money, that Pink Floyd starts to address some of the things that can get in our way as we live our lives. Only one such thing, money. Now this song, for the most part, is played in 7/8 time. It slips into 4/4 time, and from what I heard, mainly because David Gilmour was having trouble nailing a solo that was fitting in 7/8 time. And so they decided at that point they would slip into 4/4 time, and it added something extra to the song as well. And man, what a wonderful up front, right in your face guitar solo that is. It's with this song that Pink Floyd is no longer hinting. They're making a statement of just how much of a trap money can be for anyone who will do anything for it. And they're not talking about a lot of money, they're talking about a whole lot of money here. You know, the kind of money that buys you a Learjet or a football team. The sax work on this song is magnificent. And you know what? I remember a time on radio, they played a version of this that just snipped out the word bullshit. And of course, when this was released as a single, it was a monster hit for the band, and it even drove further sales of this amazing album. And you know, the key to this song is that 7/8 bass line, unwavering, unnerving. The next song, Brain Damage, fully introduces us to lunacy or madness, doesn't it? And if the dam breaks open many years too soon, and if there's no room on the hill, wonderful lyrics. Is he talking about getting caught up in all the wrong things at the point when you die and there's no redemption for your soul? Or is he talking about lunacy? Well, he does speak of the lunatics in his hall, the hallway to his own room. And these lunatics are folded up in a paper, face down to the floor. You know, when I read this, I go, oh, it's his paper being delivered. And this song is reflecting all of the bad news that just seeps into his house, no matter what he does. Is it the real crazies of the world that he's talking about here, like mass murderers? No, I believe this is a song directly to Syd Barrett. And I think the key part here is if the band you're playing in plays another tune. This is to Sid. All right, so the next song, Eclipse, is more a refrain than anything else, and it mentions everything under the sun in this song. All that you fight, all that you feel, all of the things that we experience in life, whether it's for the good or the bad, if everything under the sun is in tune, that powerful sun can still be eclipsed by the moon. And of course, this statement really makes it clear. There's just a thin veil between sanity and insanity, and we should be very careful how we tread our paths in life. Next song up, one of the most beautiful Pink Floyd songs, Breathe. You know, this song brings out that any longevity that we might have, anyone who lives a long life, is basically for those who heed the tide. But for those who are willing to take chances in life, there are highs to experience, but there are sudden pitfalls as well. Of course, this song blends into another connecting piece, but dig what they say at the end of this sound collage. They actually give an answer to the question the last song asks, where the narrator declares, "Live for today, gone tomorrow, that's me." And if there is a final declaration to this album, it's interesting. I think it's here. And as I said in my last video, they actually, in their lyrics, question their very lifestyle. But here, evidently, Pink Floyd is saying they're gonna go with it. Next up, the magnificent Us and Them. Forward, he cried, from the rear, and the front rank died. You know, when this song came out, that was a bit too familiar to us young listeners. You know, these words just say it all. And you know what? That was a hot topic when this album came out. Young people were questioning for the first time the whole idea of going to war, actually believing that we could achieve peace in our lifetime. Now, of course, this leads us to the last track, doesn't it? And you know what? This track is full of just wonderful keyboard parts. But once again, we hear David Gilmour and his guitar again. Sounds almost like icicles against this magnificent ending piece. The moment it ends, it begs you to turn that record back over to side A and start it all over again. Well, I want to make one other quick announcement. I will have a video soon that will be featuring this magnificent album by a close and dear friend, former bandmate, Quinn Hedges. Now, as you guys know, I've been a little bit miffed at the recording industry, and I've found it very hard to find good, valid, new, meaningful music. This album has it all. Not only is Quinn one of the 3 very best guitar players I've ever personally met, but he's a great songwriter as well. And his album, Slightly South of Stormy Skies, I'm telling you, if you are at all a Steely Dan fan, you will love this album. And guess what? It was mastered by Bob Ludwig, the same mastering engineer who worked with Led Zeppelin and a zillion other major bands. Now, Quinn is out of the Sacramento, California area, and I'm telling you, he's one of the few artists that's offering fresh new music that I've heard in a long time. All right, so that's it for the video tonight. I'm Michael Noland. This is The Bottom Line, and I'll see you in the next video.